Toronto has a big problem.
Toronto's troubled housing market.
To produce new housing is higher than what the market is willing and able to absorb.
And now we're seeing projects being canceled.
Material in the near future, some kind of technology or some kind of innovation to make houses cheaper.
Housing is unaffordable, projects are stalled, and nothing is advancing.
Is considerably higher than it used to be.
The challenge remains finding a way to make new homes within reach.
Kris, the answer is simple, but the execution may be difficult.
This housing crisis not only extends across the city, but across the country. And it's all because construction is taking way too long and costing way too much. And we've already spent $1.4 million to do something about it. And that's to prove that we can do it in half the time, half the cost, and still be just as good. Today, we're meeting with Frank Protomanni. With nearly 40 years of experience in Toronto real estate, we're going to examine whether or not it's possible to fix the system, and if so, how we're going to fix it. I presented everything to Frank, and well, let's just say he immediately had his concerns.
Have you built one?
No, never.
When are you going to build it?
Our first one will be built. This 6-story building will be the first I've ever done. And I've said that openly on camera.
When?
Next year.
When next year?
Probably starting in fall next year.
Fall.
Yeah, like 2026 fall. That's when we're going to start to build this.
But I'm just curious, why did you come up with 6-story? Why did you come up with 30, 40 units? Why not 8-story? Why not 10? Why not a lower complex over a larger piece of land? What process did you go through to get to this point?
I was looking to use technology that some of it hasn't been tested in Canada. And I felt that if I went too big, then I would be up against some serious controversy and some potential major problems, especially in Canada.
So that sounds like a really good idea, but be prepared that you're going to run up against government concern and red tape. It's not going to be a walk in the park. They are going to analyze, and analyze. So get ready for it. Make sure you've got all your ducks in a row, because the questions that they're going to ask, the time frame that it's going to get required to get done is probably going to be longer than what you're anticipating. But I think once you get it through, if what you're saying is correct and you're going to reduce time, you're going to reduce risk, then you're going to hit a home run.
Already, things aren't looking like they're going to be a walk in the park. You'd think that if I owned my own land and I wanted to experiment with my own type of building, I could. But it doesn't work that way. In Ontario, and like most places around the world, you have zoning and you have construction codes, which is the rule book that tells you what you can build and how you need to build it. And if it's something they haven't seen before, they're going to pick it apart just to prove that it doesn't work. And if I'm going to do this, I have to make sure it's fail-proof. And even if I do, that might not even be good enough.
Recently, there's a case study of a developer that was going to build 2 fourplexes, I think it was, in Etobicoke, and they had as of right zoning. Yet the local residents just slowed down the process enormously because it's NIMBYism. And we have to get over that. If we don't get over that,
What is NIMBYism?
we're never, not in my backyard. So, every developer, unfortunately, runs through this problem that even with zoning, it's the neighbors who say, I don't want it. I don't want 4 stories. I don't want 4 plexes.
So wait, hold on. This means that even if I have permits to build, my neighbors can still stop me?
I want to touch on this NIMBYism aspect of things for just a second. As I start to go down this path, what do you see like as valid complaints against zoning though that would come up specifically based on your experience that anybody would even have an argument against what we're trying to do? Like other than shadow study? Like
I think it's nothing more than emotion. People are set in their ways. We have so much immigration, of course, in Toronto and Canada itself. And immigrants come here and they want a piece of real estate, and they finally get a single family home that perhaps they didn't have in their homeland. So now they have all these swaths of single family homes, which was fine as Toronto grew. But of course, we know that the infrastructure costs of moving out into the suburbs is enormous, and therefore we need density. And therefore, their homes one day will have to be raised, and the house next door will have to be raised. And if the house next door is being built before their house gets purchased and raised, they're going to be upset because there may be a home next door that is 2 stories higher or has 4 families in it as opposed to their single family home. So it's nothing more than an emotional response to what they perceive to be their God-given right to a single family home in a city. And they don't want it.
No. So now, not only am I going to have to prove to the government that the tech is safe and can be used, but also can work with codes and pass building regulations, but I'm going to have to now deal with the people that live in the area, and they're going to be able to decide whether or not I can build my building. This is fucking stupid is what it is. Mind-blowing.
Until cities, I think, are pushed to a point that there's no way in the world that they're going to be able to move forward other than to rezone an entire city block that has nothing but single family homes and say, one day there's going to be 12-story building on this block. When you get to that point, because you're pushed there because of politics, because of necessity, etc., you're not going to get people to buy in without that. And even then, you're going to have a hard time.
Frank has nearly 40 years of experience in the commercial real estate business. One of the things that Frank is really good at is being able to be beside you during negotiations. He is the guy that's going to be able to tell you about land, its value, whether it's developable or not, or whether you can use it for what you want it to be used for. His deep knowledge into zoning makes him one of the best guys to talk to. And if there's anyone that can shed light on how to get around these obstacles, it's definitely him.
I'm going to ask you a number of really deep questions to figure out how to make this happen in the least obstructed way to get us to our end goal. And I hope you understand, like, this goal is for the betterment of not just Toronto and not just Ontario and not just Canada, but the betterment of the entire world, because we are going to be looking at technologies that are global. Technologies that some people haven't ever seen before or haven't used before. And we're going to see if we can get them back here to Canada and use them on these buildings. And if that can happen, I agree with you, we've hit a home run, but it's about getting there. And I think that you have a wealth of knowledge that's going to be able to help me to get us to that end goal.
You know, Kris, given what you just said, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. We all know that. And therefore, how in the world does China build a hospital in 10 days? Whatever technologies they have, if that's what you're talking about, not specifically that one, but any technologies around the world that you can improve upon the construction industry in Ontario and in Canada and globally, as you said, then we'll be in great shape. Because what we should be doing is going there, learning, improving upon it, and then using it everywhere. After all, isn't that exactly what Chinese manufacturers have done? They've taken the product, they've gone there, they've made it better, and now they've reintroduced it to the world. And that's what you need to do.
And that's essentially what we set out to do. One of the most important pieces of this is that we're not just using one tech. We're the ones that are going to be combining all of these pieces of tech to come to the best solution. But before we do all of that, I want to understand, why are we in this predicament in the first place?
Why do you think that the affordable housing aspect hasn't taken off, and why are there less apartments than there should be in a city like Toronto?
Kris, it's economics. Affordable housing is nothing more than a commodity. So therefore it's a race to the bottom, the lowest possible price. And when you get to that point, the margins aren't there for developers really to build. If you differentiate that from the luxury market, where there are many price points, there's differentiation in pricing, so a developer can build something that is, rather than just a race to the bottom of $100 a square foot, they can build $200, $300, $400, $500 a square foot. So this vast differentiation allows them to price point and make money based on what their required return is. But when you're a race to the bottom and it's just a commodity, it makes it very, very different.
I actually didn't understand a word you just told me. Not gonna lie to you.
Let's look at examples. There's a piece of land in downtown Toronto for half an acre. If you're building it at a low cost for affordable, then everybody's racing to whatever number it is. That is not differentiated. That's a commodity price because everybody's going to build at the lowest price that they possibly can, and it's going to be the same. But one developer might be able to put 20% more or 30% more or 40% more and suddenly get 60% more or 70% more or 80% more in the return because the differentiation in pricing allows them not to be a commodity, not to be exactly like that condo next door or that home over there.
Okay, I get it.
It allows that differentiation
Got
and
it.
creativity and ability to garner as much money as possible from the luxury set that would pay a lot more for not necessarily the equal amount of extra investment that it would take versus the commodity pricing.
How do you see technology unfolding in the development space? And how do you feel that its return on its investment will prove to be something that is valuable for this industry?
Kris, this recession / housing crisis is already deep, and I think it's going to get deeper from where we are. That's just my own personal opinion. And if you believe in the old adage that necessity is the mother of all invention, then I believe that people like yourself and others who are going to look at new technologies, new everything, new way to tear something down and create something new. That's going to be the silver lining that's going to come out of this last 5 years and maybe the next 2 or 3 or 4 years. We need change, and we need it as quickly as possible.
I agree. The problem with change is everything's just really expensive, like way too expensive. And I'm not sure what we need to do from here.
Kris, I agree. Things are way too expensive, and I'm very, very concerned for my kids, your kids, and any other 20-year-old who's trying to buy a new home, a first-time home. The problem is well documented everywhere, is that on $1 million new condo, home, etc., there's about $300,000 in taxes, whether it's development charges, HST, planning fees, etc. And it's way too expensive.
He was right. New homeowners are taxed up to 30%, sometimes even 35%.
Taxes. One new cause that is keeping the cost of new housing unaffordable in Canada.
Increasing property taxes in the city.
The real question, though, is why? Sorry, $300,000? So you're telling me that on $1 million, there's $300,000 in taxes?
That's correct. That's correct. Approximately, I've heard as much as $350,000. So that means a developer could sell you something for $700,000, a brand new condo, but they don't. They sell it for $1 million, and there's $300,000 that are embedded taxes, whether it's development charges, parkland dedications, HST, and other fees and regulations that come from various government agencies. The only way to bring that down is to cut costs, and costs are associated with not only labor, which won't go down probably, material could go down, land could go down, and taxes could go down.
So that's insane. The government needs money. And so what they do is they tax the builders and they tax the developers. And the developers have to pass on those taxes to the homeowners. So what ends up happening is a $700,000 home becomes $1 million and now is unaffordable. But they could have built it cheaper. Because there's 30% tax built in, we as the consumers have to pay for that. Do you know how frustrating that is? To think about it? That we can build something right now that people can afford, but we have to put $300,000 on $1 million into the government's pockets in order to pay for things that aren't really what they're supposed to be using that money for in the first place. If you think about that, all we really need to do is come up with a better solution to tax.
Everybody talks about it in the industry. I'm not saying anything that's out of turn. You can see it on LinkedIn, you can see it on Reddit, you can see it in the newspapers. It's there. This is a problem. Then we have costs associated with it. So our costs have risen dramatically, and a main part of that is the real estate / construction industry.
When did these taxes actually come into play? Like, I don't even know if I was old enough to remember, or was I building at this period of time in my life?
Here's the issue. Just development charges have risen over 10,000% over the last 25 years in the city of Toronto. And I've lived in the city of Toronto my entire life. I'm willing to pay the extra taxes that are required if taxes are spread over the 2 million households in the city of Toronto. But to just put that burden on new homes to take care of the budget within, let's say, the city of Toronto or any other city, it would change the dynamics of the entire industry tremendously. The tax burden has to be spread across the entire city, so it makes it a better city for everyone, and it lowers our tax burden on new homes, and therefore reducing prices.
That's insane. That's 30% on every dollar that we have to add in as builders into the cost of the product that we have to sell to a consumer. That's literally the difference between something that's affordable and unaffordable. And all we have to do is be able to change where those taxes come from.
Then you have to increase or speed up the time frame within which costs can be reduced if new technologies, new innovations are brought to light. We have to bring new building technologies that reduce pricing for our citizens, period.
This gave me a ton of confidence. Talking to Frank, who's a 40-year veteran in the real estate game with a wealth of understanding of properties and has worked with some of the biggest developers in this city, he's confirming my plan is a viable one. As long as I stay strategic and move carefully, I'll be able to complete it properly. There's just one more question I have to ask.
Based on, a developer like myself who's looking to bring this level of technology and these types of items to market, trying to figure out how to bring this to a level that can be used, what advice would you give me or other developers like me who are looking to do this?
Kris, the answer is simple, but the execution may be difficult. The simple answer is you have to prove it. To prove it, I think you're going to have to build something, because you've got something new and no one's truly going to believe it until they see that first one up. They've got to see that you are executing what you say you're going to execute, cost-wise and time-wise. And then they're going to have to see that finished product and say, holy cow, this is incredible, and I'm going to build this. And I think that until we see that there's going to be skepticism. So prove it, build it.
I need to prove to everyone that this can work. But in order to make that happen, I have to do more than just talk and present an idea. I have to make a leap and build something. But what's that gonna be? Well, you're just gonna have to stick around till next episode where we make the biggest leap next. So stick around, smash that subscribe button, and we'll see you next week. I wonder what we're gonna do with this. A lot of money. Booyah, booyah. They're gonna pick it apart faster than you can think of.
Pick it apart faster than
Well, vulture on a carcass.
Pennywise to children.
What? You didn't even say that on this. That would be the worst of the camera, man. Already, things look like they're gonna not just be as easy as walking a dog in the park, because that was just not the line.